Hi, welcome back to our final One Voice video time together. I hope that you've enjoyed these videos. I hope they have been helpful to you as you think about all the different elements of your story, because that's really what this is about, kind of learning yourself and looking for the stories around you. So I wanted to bring it all together, full circle, this last video, and talk about our story. I know in the last class that we did last Friday, we talked about community, and I had you imagine and visualize a community that means a lot to you. So think about that perhaps in this video. I do want to start with the writing prompt where you write about your favorite place. And this doesn't have to be a different city or, some faraway land that you've traveled to, although you can do that. This can be a place in your room. This can be a place in your backyard. Somewhere that's special to you. So write about your favorite place. Give yourself 10 minutes. Try not to write, or try to write without stopping. Put all the distractions away. Play whatever music you'd like, and just write and have fun with it. And then we'll circle back. Thanks. In this video, I wanted to use story as an acronym and look at the STORY related to community. Let's start with S. I'm curious, and this is just for you to think about, you don't have to write about it unless you would like. What stereotypes exist within the community that you experience? So you can pick that community from last Friday's class, or you can say at Abintra or in your neighborhood or your culture, whatever you think, even your age group. What are some stereotypes that exist? A stereotype of Nashville could be there's only country music in the city. And we know that there's other music that you can go see, any night of the week in Nashville and that really have their roots in the city. So that's one example. The second T, the second letter of the acronym for story, going into T. So again, looking at this community, whether it's Nashville or whatever you visualize, it could be your family, it could be just a community, a group of people that means a lot to you. Trouble, T, define trouble in this community. What comes to mind? So who tends to get in trouble most often in this community? What are the trouble areas in this community? And what does trouble even mean to you as you reflect on that word? And I like this question, speaking of Nashville, if that's the community you choose. If you were mayor for a day, what are 3 trouble areas you would focus on to improve Nashville? So just thinking of that T word, trouble. The third letter is obligations. So we're going through STO, obligations. What are the obligations in your community that you've selected? So looking at kind of expectations or duties, things like that. So, do people your age have obligations that should be accounted for in this community that you're thinking of? Does your community have obligations toward the city, toward Nashville or another city surrounding area? And if so, what are they? The last one, or not the last one, the next to last one, resources. So we're on R. If you think about resources, you can think about assets, things that you can use for a positive thing. What is unique about your community that helps them live a great story? So if you're thinking about that story, for Nashville, for example, we have libraries, we have school systems, we have good outdoor areas. Those are resources that can help the city grow. Are we missing any resources that could help us live a great story in that community? The last one is youth, your age group. How can you, as a young person, lift up this community and bring positive transformation or change? And again, it could be your family, it could be a small unit of community. So, how can you help create a more welcoming space? We talked about that last Friday, how you personally can help. And it's something to think about. You know, you're never too young to bring up really positive change and create good in your community. So, really thinking about you personally, what can you do to create a more welcoming space? Another thing to think about as we kind of wrap up our session and our time together and look at our story and the community that we live in, I do want to bring up ethics and how, with the civil rights example, or when you hear someone's story, it's such a powerful personal experience, and you want to honor that as a listener. And with anyone, you want to honor their story as a listener. So if someone opens up to you and tells you about this thing that they're going through in their life, or this thing that they did, this thing that they are really excited about or sad about, that's their story. And it's really precious and sacred for them. So as a listener, it's a gift, and it's something that is not your own to twist and turn around. You see that a lot in news stories or podcasts, even movies, how they can edit things to look a certain way. If you watch reality TV, they can edit things to look a certain way, where it can even twist the whole meaning of what someone says. So thinking about ethics and the way that you protect someone's story when they share it with you, you don't share it unless it's, you have permission. I know with the civil rights activists, they are all telling their stories all the time. So that's a different scenario. Of course, those aren't like secrets in the same way. But I know that when I was in middle school and high school, I think about gossip and how someone can take something so fast and send it out to the world that I wasn't giving them access to that. I trusted them as a person to listen. So gossip can spread really fast, and that's a good example of how you can take someone else's story and twist it and turn it and spin it any way you want. So thinking about that and the way that we look at our story, I know that sometimes, like I said in the last bit, you can feel like, oh, I'm too young to make a difference. But really, it's a very small, sometimes small, but huge way to help, and just the way that you listen to people. So going back to my story, treating your own stories with respect and confidence and courage, and knowing yourself and having this gift of knowing yourself in a really beautiful way. And then the your story piece, learning how to listen with empathy. And I know that in a previous video, we worked on the listening challenge. So listening with empathy, listening with attention, and in a way that lets people kind of sink into their truth. And then protecting that story and not telling the world, especially if it's not meant to be told. And then our story, looking at what do we share in common? What are our common communities and points of connection where we can make the world a better place? So I hope that you will look at all of those pieces, the confidence, the critical thinking, empathy. And I like to call this piece civic engagement. And all that means is getting involved and helping out in your community, helping out in your Abintra world, helping out in your neighborhood, in Nashville, your little pocket of Nashville. So getting involved in some way or another, and getting curious about how these little pieces of stories fit together in our world, and to people like you that can make this community a better place. So thank you for listening, and I do hope that you'll take some of this with you as you become better people on this journey that we all call life. Thanks so much.